Hey Trekkies, it's summer, and you know what that means. It's time for Creation Entertainment's Trek to Las Vegas 2025. This year, the convention has been expanded to a 5-day schedule, August 6th through the 10th at the Rio Las Vegas Hotel. Meet all your favorite Star Trek pros in one place, and hey, maybe you swing by Vic's Lounge and you see our panel. It's a great way to meet people in person and have some fun with your fellow Trekkies. If you can't make it to Star Trek Las Vegas, of course, there's also other events around the country this year. Trek to Orlando, August 23rd through 24th. There's the Trek to New Jersey, September 6th and 7th. And finally, the Trek to Chicago, November 22nd and 23rd. We're looking forward to meeting as many of you as we can this year. So make sure that you get ready to trek to Las Vegas.
Is this thing on? Hello, hello. Welcome to Open Pike Night. I'm your host, John T. Bolds, here tonight with some amazing guests on stage and in the studio to discuss Episode 4 of Strange New Worlds, Memento Mori. We're here tonight to explore the crushing despair of losing those we love, how we commemorate the disasters that have befallen others, the feeling of being outgunned and caught in a trap, and of course, fun! As always, we're glad to welcome our lineup of voices to the Open Pike Night Stage. Each week we want to hear what you think about every new episode of Strange New Worlds as they drop. So, when you watch the episode on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, if you have something you want to share on the Open Pike Night Stage, please record an audio clip, 90 seconds or less, and send it to openpike@gmail.com by Sunday morning. You have 3 days to send us 90 seconds and take your place on the Open Pike Night Stage. Be sure to follow @OpenPike on Twitter and subscribe to a weekly reminder newsletter. When you subscribe, check your junk mail or promotion folders. It seems like some of the newsletters are ending up in there. Most importantly, be sure to share Open Pike Night with your friends, and please, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Joining me today are my co-hosts. The man who, by all accounts, host of Sudden But Inevitable, Jessie.
I'm calling them Hemura because Uhumur sounds dirty.
And the man who doesn't mind aiming a cannon at canon if it delivers a quality episode. Host of the Green Shirt Podcast, Cam.
Oh man, guys, this episode is the most fun I've had inside of a brown dwarf since... Oh, I just got a note from our lawyer saying I'm not allowed to finish that sentence.
And today we have a special guest, the man who loves movies right up until he doesn't, co-host of the Bricked Pit podcast and regular Hatebox narrator, Josh.
I'm just here so I don't get fined. I'm very glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
The pressure has been stronger than the core of a brown dwarf star to get your clips in this week, and the Open Pike Night Stage lineup is buckling under the load of responses. So let's get to our first couple of clips. We'll play them back to back. First up, we have Sean from Cheap Seat Reviews.
Hey guys, this is Sean Allred from Cheap Seat Reviews giving you my 90-second review of Episode 4 of Strange New Worlds. Holy balls, I just finished watching this. This episode is like everything I love in an action sci-fi Trek thing. I saw your meme earlier today, Jesse, about... we're going to dive into Wrath of Khan. Yes, this is a very Wrath of Khan kind of episode, which I love. One of the reasons why I love Wrath of Khan is because it's basically a submarine revenge war movie, right? Like depth charges and submarine warfare, and all of that stuff is great. And then you get these really, really sweet moments of sacrifice and learning how to do the thing, and Hammer has to figure out how to work as a team, and Uhura is learning new skills, and the med bay is having to figure things out. And, you know, like number one had a very number one heavy episode last week, so this week it was very much Captain Pike and the other bridge crew. It was just such a fun episode. I really enjoyed it, and I'm also really glad that they didn't show us the Gorn, but maybe that's coming later. Those ships were neat. Everything about this show got me excited. So looking forward to some more of this kind of stuff.
Hello, my favorite Star Trek boys. It's Marcy, here to talk about Memento Mori, and as you know, I like to do a play-by-play. It's mostly going to be about La'an, and maybe a little bit about what's happening with the ship. But we know anytime the word routine is in the description for an episode, things are going to go down. Let's start with the fact that everybody on this ship has amazing posture. If I had to sit at a console for 8 hours or more, you know I'd be in full computer hunch. La'an, finally, a security officer that the captain listens to and gives tactical information that plays out. I couldn't help but think that La'an's speech to the officers about the Gorn is reminiscent of Ripley's speech to the Marines and Aliens, getting some real Aliens vibes from Strange New Worlds. Remember that creepy egg in Chamber of the Comet that turned out to be nothing? But hey, it could have been like a monster or something. And oh my gosh, Cameron, can you believe it? There's real stakes in this episode. I mean, people dying from bulkheads, and it's a fucking submarine episode. Come on, Star Trek, you're killing me. Submarine movies have the best tension. This episode reminds me of The Enemy Below. What's your favorite submarine movie, guys? All right, and finally, La'an makes these Gorn seem pretty fucking scary. And have you ever noticed that the worst villains have only one-syllable names? Gorn, Borg, Khan. I wonder if the more syllables a villain has, the more comedic they are. Think Ferengi. And finally, wouldn't it just be easier for the Gorn to raise cattle or something? Why do you go around killing sentient beings? It makes no sense.
And that was Marcy, former guest host of Open Pike Night and Green Shirt, a Newbie's Trek Through the Next Generation, at PNW Beetroot on Twitter and TikTok. So we got a submarine episode. Who wants to start off talking about that?
You do not want to be in a spaceship when it starts making noises like that.
That is the thing that we really didn't get a bunch of in TNG, right? Like, there were a lot of cool concept stories and like, oh no, the Enterprise is in danger. And there were a few times it was like very shaky. But the creakiness of the sound design in this episode, like the sheer nautical nature of how underwater and the pressure felt, and it just, to Sean's point, this episode does feel built for our generation of Trek fans, right? Like, this is aimed at people who watched The Wrath of Khan with their dad on a VHS and were like, wow, this is really cool.
With their dad?
Get him, Josh.
Wheel me
Go
to
for
the
it.
retirement home.
Or you know, the point being, this is designed to cut across the generations, right? Like, my dad, for instance, I know loved this episode because he texted me about it. And Marcy, I really think that there's something to your comparison about the other villains. The one Trek episode that I kept going back to, I believe, was Q Who, and you guys, I'm sorry. Q Who is the one where he flings them and they meet the Borg, right?
That's the first Borg, yeah.
This had some Q Who vibes to me because the one person that's ever encountered these people are like, you don't want to mess with these people. They can't be bargained with. They're not interested in talking to you. They don't care about your values. Like, that's all the same stuff that Q said about the Borg.
Josh, what do you think?
I agree. I think it's a solid entry into Trek. I've been less than warm with Strange New Worlds up to date. I was actually afraid to come on the show when I watched the first 2 episodes because I was like, oh God, people are going to hate me after this. But then this episode came out. I was like, oh, what a great episode. You know, there's still plenty of things I can nitpick, but overall, it was the first time that I felt like it was a solid Trek show. And the Gorn were fantastically terrifying. I love the whole breeding centers where they just like let loose humans for these tiny Gorn to hunt down. That was just awesome. It rectified a lot of issues I had with La'an as a character. I think it gave her. I really hate the Khan connection, and it seems superfluous because she has such a great backstory. It's very reminiscent of Tasha Yar, but instead of roving rape gangs, which is like you don't want in a TV show, it always rubbed me the wrong way when she just talked about, yeah, there's roving rape gangs. Like, whoa, back up. Like, well, the roving Gorn babies trying to eat you is a better.
It's more family friendly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, to Marcy's point, I did bump a little bit like, wow, these Gorn are going to a lot of trouble to get like a couple hundred people to feed to their babies. Like, I mean, maybe just go find some better prey. But then I did start to feel, and kind of to your point, Josh, what you brought up, that there's some predator aspects to the Gorn as well. Like the thrill of the hunt is part of their culture just as much as like the gathering the food for the babies. I did think, because all I remembered La'an saying about them before was something about breeding sacks. And so when they brought the colonists on board, I 100% thought like they were full of Gorn eggs and they were going to start exploding from them. And I kind of wish that had happened, but I understand, again, not the most family friendly.
I was going to say, be honest, you were hoping they were full of Gorn eggs.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
All right. Favorite submarine movies. Marcy asked us a question there. Josh, what do you got?
I know I'm supposed to say Das Boot from a film podcast, but Hunt for Red October, 110%.
No.
Just
down Periscope?
Damn it, Cam, you just stole my joke.
Look, Sean Connery not even trying to put on a Russian accent is the best thing ever. One ping only. Like
most things in here don't react too well to bullets.
Yeah, I'm not actually a huge fan of submarine movies. Like, it was funny when I realized when the pinging started happening in this episode, I was like, yay, submarine movie. And then I was asked this question. I was like, well, I haven't seen Das Boot. I mean, Crimson Tide and Hunt for Red October are fine. I haven't seen them in years. The movies I do love, though, and I don't know if this will count, are things like The Abyss, and which of course was the pinnacle. But even the shitty ones like Deep Star 6 and Leviathan. I love any like good underwater base movies. So I'm going to say The Abyss.
Well, Cameron, you're also on record as being, quote, an old man who just likes submarines. So I think
but that's a new discovery. So I need to go back and rewatch these movies, apparently.
Gotcha. Just to continue the through line, I guess, for the rest of this entire episode, I am looking for the crowd that understands the reference when I say my favorite submarine movie is a little movie called Heat Signature. If you understand that reference, please @ me on Twitter @OpenPike or send an email to openpike@gmail.com, and I will send you a handcrafted meme just for you.
And just before we go on to our next guest, if you have not seen the SpongeBob SquarePants movie trailer using submarine movie clips from so many different movies, watch it on YouTube. You will thank me. All right, our next guest on the Open Pike Night Stage is our first-time contributor.
I'm Paul Levinson, and I've been watching Star Trek, since the first Star Trek episode back in the 1960s, and I've been loving it. By the way, I'm also a science fiction author. I have 6 novels published and 35 short stories. And I've been reviewing every episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds on my own podcast, Light On, Light Through. And I have to say, I think it's the best Star Trek series since the original series, which was always my favorite Star Trek series. The Next Generation is close competition for sure, but I always thought TOS was the best, and Strange New Worlds has a lot of what TOS had. In particular, it's great seeing Spock, and I think this young Spock is a great character and is working perfectly in terms of what we know about the classic Spock from the original series.
All right, that was Paul Levinson, sci-fi author and competing podcaster for Open Pike Night, apparently. He is currently developing his short story, It's Real Life, a Beatles alternate history, into a full-length novel. And you can follow him at Paul Lev on Twitter and paullevinson.net. So we've talked a lot about home trek, everybody's home trek, where you started on this podcast. And I'll tell you what, we're hearing a lot from all of the generations, and I'm loving getting input from people who got to watch it as it aired.
I'm kind of blown away by how many followers we have at Open Pike that are fans of the original series that watched it as it aired. Like there are people on Twitter that are going, I'm from when the show came out and I'm loving Strange New Worlds. And I'm like, I didn't know that many of you were on Twitter at all. But I am so happy to be interacting with them. And it blows my mind how many of them have this same attitude where they're like, this is what we've wanted. This is beautiful. It's a great continuation of what we loved about the original series. There are definitely some detractors out there, and you will see them, especially on our page when we make a funny joke that gets more than a couple of likes. Then that's when the detractors come out. But to see so many fans of the original series falling so in love with this is heartwarming for me as a huge fanboy, and it also, I think, is a great sign for the franchise going forward, because it really does show that despite long breaks or, ups and downs in demand for it, this franchise really can go forever.
Josh, what is your home Trek series, or do you have a home Trek series?
I am a TOS guy simply because that was my first Trek. I didn't watch it on first air, but when back when Fox was just becoming a thing, they needed a lot of content. So the local Fox station would play TOS every night at 6, and I would record it on VHS and commercials and all. And that just, nice. So I think I was like in 6th grade, and that's when I learned that being a Trekkie was not admirable to many people in the South, in small towns. But so I have a warm spot in my heart. I've seen every Trek film since 4 in the movie theaters.
Yeah, what I'm loving about Strange New Worlds is after watching the 2009 Star Trek, I remember like falling back in love with Star Trek, but like really wanting a little bit more of that modern sensibility, a little more of the updated visuals and style, and more action, and that's kind of when I started being like, oh, maybe I should give TNG a chance. It's bound to be more like that than TOS, at least. Maybe not so much more contemplative, but it was not what I was looking for post 2009. Strange New Worlds is that series that I was looking for. That's like we're taking that sensibility and then just putting it into week after week episodic stories that are fun and thrilling and full of engaging characters. So thank you.
And that look like a movie.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
The production value is insane. And
this episode especially. Yeah. Like I kind of talked about some of the budget showing in the first episode. I don't see the budget at all here.
No.
But and it almost goes back to like those TNG seasons where you're like, oh, they really did save some budgets from some other episodes and move them around a little bit. Like, this feels so classic. I'm so excited. I'm actually really excited to get next week's episode, which seems to be the precise opposite tone of this episode, but we will get to that.
Well, you know what I love about next week's episode is they're in space dock getting repaired, right?
Right.
That's what I love. That's the type of serialization I love in an episodic show. If you get your ship all busted the hell up in this episode, they are not just off gallivanting again next episode. They got to take care of that.
At least it's just
episode.
Nice. Yeah.
Yes, it's nice continuity, and then it provides the stakes. Like, if the Enterprise gets fucked up, it means something. It means they got to go back next episode.
I will compliment the show on it is very episodic, but it does carry threads through. I think that's been smart.
Editing told the story at the end of this episode, right? They gave you an extended flyby of the Enterprise, which we're used to, but they were like, look at all the crap falling off of it. Like,
just
they need to get this fixed right now.
It's the Serenity.
Speaking of, let's hear from our next couple of guests on the Open Pike Night Stage.
Hello, Open Pike. This is Rosie, Rosalita9899 on Twitter. I am just admiring the fact that they aired Memento Mori just before the Memorial Day weekend. I thought that was excellent timing. I'm going to admit La'an is my least favorite because she is blunt and appears unfeeling. The actress is incredible at keeping her face expressionless. Anson Mount, on the other hand, has an impressive array of expressions. I love it when he is scared, relieved, and joyful. He looks scary when he gets angry. Ortega naming it the Pike maneuver surfing a black hole was hilarious. Hammer and Ura teamwork was fun to watch, and get fond with it, I think is my favorite saying of Ahura's favorite quote. Una sacrificing the only plasma left, and Mbenga becoming a donor gave me Firefly feelings. The Gorn reminded me of the Reavers, and Wash donated blood to Captain Malcolm Reynolds in Out of Gas. I keep thinking at some point there'll be an episode that I don't love, but so far so good. Absolutely loving all of it. Thank you so much, Open Pike.
What's up, Open Pike Night? I finally graduated from Starfleet Academy, so I once again have the time to commit to 90 seconds for this wonderful podcast, and I'm so glad that I did it in time for Star Trek to finally reveal to us the Reavers. Sorry, damn it, the Reavers. No, the Reavers. Damn it, they're the Gorn of the Reavers. They're and it's just that's just so great to me, because that means that the writers are clearly Firefly fans, because if you look at it, like the traps that they lay, the odd things they do with bodies, the fact that no one's ever seen them, only heard the stories of space, that is fantastic to me. And my girl La'an, of course, is kicking ass in her episode, which I loved, and we got a little more of her backstory, and the Gorn tumbling through space like the Reavers did. And because you don't know which way that ship is going. I don't know if that's up, down, left, sideways. And then they're racing through the nebula. So a nice little Wrath of Gorn tribute. This is my favorite episode thus far. And I can't wait to see more of the Gorn in like a nice season 2 reveal, when they reveal that they're actually been the Reavers this whole time. So that's me. Live long, and don't get sewn into your skin sewn into their clothing. That'd be bad.
All right. We had Rosie at Rosalita9899 on Twitter, followed by Steve at CineSaraBiz on Twitter. Josh, what's your relationship with Firefly?
You listen to our show. I knew this would come up. Most of what I do not like about Strange New Worlds, I can lay at the feet of Firefly, which... So, all right, let me wind up. Star Trek has never been a sci-fi show. It was pitched as Wagon Train to the Stars. It's has sci-fi dressing, and I always felt like Firefly was just too on the nose. Like, it's a space western, but look, we've got 6-shooters. We've got this maglev train, but inside it looks like Irish immigrants from the 1800s. Come on, I get it. And then the snarky dialogue, which is my biggest issue with Strange New Worlds, is you can take any of the dialogue from anybody in Firefly and mix it around, and they all have the same voice. It's Joss Whedon's snarky voice. There's a lot of that in Strange New Worlds, and like I just rewatched Space Seed because I wanted to get mad about the Khan thing, and MacGyver's like. All she did was not react quick enough when Kirk was like, hey, is this person waking up the leader? He dressed her down. Like, don't you ever do that. That is completely... And yet on this Enterprise, we got people saying, whatever. Hey, just being real cavalier. And Kirk wasn't the most strict captain. So like, if he's calling people out, just be a little more professional. Strange New World.
I did, but I loved the moment where between him and La'an after the little round table, and he's like, so maybe that's not the best bedside manner for the crew. Like, I thought that was really good space dad energy there. And then she accepts it well, but she pushes back a little bit, and he kind of recognizes like, okay, I've taken her as far as I can at this moment. We're going to have to meet in the middle somewhere.
That was perfect. I thought it was done really well, and I felt like he was being a captain. I really enjoyed that. Hey, yeah, we're probably going to die. Don't tell these people.
You and I know.
Right. That is a very dad thing. It's like, you're in trouble or something and something's going on. You're not going to tell your kids, I don't know what's going on, and we're in a bad spot.
The way he talked to the shepherd, I think, for me, set the tone for the whole series, because he was like, come on, we can work something out. Everything's going to be fine. And I was like, okay, Pike has like an otherworldly calm, right? Mm-hmm. He has a reason for that, because in his head he's like, I've got 10 years of smooth enough sailing, so I'm fine. Like, I'm sure everything will be okay. He's literally going with the flow of time. And the people around him don't all know that, so they just see this supremely confident, impossibly calm, like laissez-faire captain with a capital C who is ultimately inspiring because of those things. I think his ability to go, okay, well then I have time to spend on your personality traits and how that clashes with your position, that is what makes him the ideal captain for this crew. So I feel like there's an economy to the time of an episodic television show that requires a faster dialogue. And I think there's probably, this episode, I think, has had the best balance for me up to this point.
I would agree. It was like Uhura's bit with Himmer. Like, I thought that was perfect. And I've not been really happy with her portrayal up until at this point. I felt like they were great together. I want to see more of them together as characters. That was fantastic.
Yeah, it definitely seems like they're setting up Uhura to be the bridge between Hemmer's abrasiveness and the rest of the crew. You're going to hear in more clips coming up. I didn't expect this episode, after I watched it, to be so divisive with viewers about La'an and her character. Like, we're going to hear people who love her, and we're going to hear people who are like, I really don't like her. So, and just like we've been hearing online.
To that point, John, our friend Ronald McDonald on Twitter says, however you feel about the character, you have to admit that the actor does a fine job of emulating Cumberbatch's performance. It was a bit haunting. At first, I thought it was maybe just the accent, but it was more than that. And I thought to myself, I had not even considered the possibility that she may have drawn from that performance for this character. Like, whoa! That is a brilliant point, and I just think it needed to be brought up, so thank you for bringing that up on Twitter. We are at Ronald M143242333.
Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, I loved Rosie's note about Memorial Day. I noticed that too. It's like, wow, that was some good timing, Strange New Worlds. We've often get a Halloween or Christmas episode in a show. I don't know if I've ever seen a Memorial Day episode.
No.
Maybe Major Dad? I don't know. And then, Jag. I love the moment between Una and Mbenga at the end with the plasma flow. It made me feel bad about my pay it forward note last time. I joke about like him letting people have sex with tribbles. No, this is how he pays it forward, and it's very sweet. And it's also just one of those moments like, yeah, if you didn't see last episode, great, it still works. But if you did see last episode and you know that there's more there than just him being nice, it really hits harder. So
did you
good job.
Notice Una's fingernails this episode?
Right?
How could you not?
Amazing.
The nails look like interlocking armor plates this episode, and she's trying to defend herself from...
I thought it was little Enterprise chevrons. Like
that was,
I
think
like,
it was
man,
last episode. She had
there's
that,
no
yeah.
clear...
I think she did at one point.
Yeah, there's no clear shot in this episode. It's only out of focus because her hand is so close to the camera, but they were beautiful.
So how do you guys feel about the Gorn being used in this episode?
I'm fine with it.
I'm fine with it too.
I thought it was perfect. And somebody that I personally like get really aggravated with cannon breaks. I don't think this was really. I mean, they kind of knew who the Gorn were in Arena, so I don't think it really violates anything. I think my problem is, like I said before, I think like this gives Lon's character like some depth and some reason for the way she is. I just the con thing is such a hard thing for me to accept.
Yeah, I'll be interested to know what they do with it because they must be planning to do something with it. But I agree. It's like, how many connections do we need? Like when they made TOS, they were making everything up as they went. Like, you can do that too, Strange New Worlds. Make up your own stuff.
It makes the world small.
Yeah.
Like the prequels in Star Wars had the same problem. Like, Anakin getting in a fight with Greedo. It's like, what are the odds? And I feel like a lot of times in Strange New Worlds, like Una being a Lorian, it's like they go to this planet and like, oh my God, this thing happened to the Lorians. Like, oh, Captain, I happen to be in a Lorian. And then they meet Khan, and you're like, you're not going to believe this. We used to serve with one of your ancestors. There aren't a lot of like Johnny Hitlers or Jamie Stalin running around because you can go to the courthouse and change your name. Yeah. Like she was like all upset about, I got beat up for my last. change it. Yeah. I mean,
Pretty easy. Yeah. Even these days.
Yeah.
problem solved.
I mean, on one hand, like the Gorn are the perfect creature to revisit because they were a great idea that were limited by the budget of the time. So, I mean, I love kind of like, seeing the modern lens version of the Gorn. And I don't hate that they're introducing him here. I mean, I didn't rewatch Arena, so I don't forget exactly what they say. I do remember that neither Spock or Uhura ever went, oh, hey, remember that time we had a really, really, really tense life or death run-in with these guys? They definitely didn't say that at any point. But, I mean, it doesn't bother me a lot, but it does just kind of make me go, well, did it have to be the Gorn? I mean, if they used any other, back to Marcy's point, one-syllable villain, maybe the Poofs? Okay, we'll workshop the name, but I mean, they could have just come up with another alien race that did this exact thing, and I think it would have.
Enterprise did it with the Xindi, and it's like they did it very effectively, so we know it can be done. And of course, people are like, why don't we hear about the Xindi anymore?
Yeah. Make up new aliens. That's okay.
We've been making this TV show for 60 years, guys. Just chill.
Yeah.
So one thing that I really like about the Gorn is their ship design. And on Twitter, the concept artist Daniel J. Burns actually put out the plates of the concept designs. I was like, these are beautiful. We love them. And he said, it's always a challenge to create something alien that still evokes a sense of the familiar. And I think he really managed to pull that off. I would say the familiar concepts on those ships are teeth, cunning, and hunting. And they're terrifying.
Well, I like that how they were portrayed as superiorly clever. Like they weren't just like the Borg were relentless. That was, resistance is futile. It's like you just couldn't stop them. But like the Gorn were one step ahead of the Enterprise every single they kept falling for like, oh my God, they wanted us to attack this ship. Whoops. They wanted us to go to this distress call. Whoops. They're monstrous and they're predators, but like, I couldn't believe the Arena Gorn built spaceships. I can believe these guys did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that just makes for such great storytelling too, because as Marcy says, like the stakes just keep getting pushed higher and higher, and you get these little tension, valve relief, tension, valve relief, more tension. It's so good. So well done.
And to Steve's point about them being similar to the Reavers, and, to address Josh's point of the cannon breaks at the same time, it's possible that, this is just the Gorn defending territory that the Federation didn't know they were encroaching on, right? Like, they could be like, oh, they just attack us for no reason out of anywhere, and they could be using this to set up some comments on colonialism or, empires, that kind of a thing. That would not be super surprising to me.
To the point about encroaching on their territory, what kind of solar system is this? What is happening here? Why would they colonize a planet that is only 200 kilometers away from a black hole?
And
what is happening?
Star, yeah.
Well, I mean, I looked at a brown dwarf is kind of like, it could just be a gas planet. It's like the halfway between a planet and a star. So that kind of makes sense. But still, like, the black hole's clearly sucking the solar system in quite rapidly all of a sudden. We'll just kind of ignore that little bump. But yeah, why are they colonizing this planet? It doesn't, I did the math of Khan, and that brown dwarf was as far from them as Mars is from the sun. They are not that far.
He tasks me.
Okay, just had to rant.
All right. Our next couple guests on stage have some similar themes. First up, we're going to hear from Zoe of the Backlook Cinema podcast and former guest host on Open Pike Night at Backlook Cinema.
Attention crew, this is Zoe from the Backlook Cinema podcast. Just finished another great episode of Strange New Worlds. Now, I have to admit, this episode had some things that I could nitpick more than the previous episodes, but it was still a story that I rather enjoyed. So we didn't learn as much about Leon as I expected. I feel like we learned more from the other crew-related stories than we've learned in Leon's story. But we learned so much more from what happened in this episode. So we learned about how specifically Christopher Pike reacts under pressure. We learned how tough Starfleet builds a ship with shields to be able to go into a brown dwarf. I don't think people really understand the pressure that the Enterprise had to be under to be in a brown dwarf. And then we also learn, or there is a callback to Christopher Pike making life and death decisions, as he talks about on The Cage. As he talked about being tired of deciding who lives and who dies. So yeah, it was a great episode. Zoe out.
So this is Strange New World's first bottle episode. We never leave the ship, we never see the Gorn, and that's definitely by design, since the Federation's first official contact with the Gorn is in the TOS episode Arena, which takes place roughly 8 years in the future. Ethan Peck continues the tradition of Trek characters, especially Vulcans, pronouncing the word sensors as sensors. There's even a joke about this on an episode of Lower Decks. I'm not sure if Ethan Peck is trying to emulate Leonard Nimoy, but it feels intentional and I love it. There's no official confirmation, but La'an appears to be the second officer on Pike's Enterprise. She's taken over for Pike and Una twice now when they've been absent from the bridge. So they've clearly made her an important part of the senior crew. I did love that despite the warnings that the brown dwarf would cause significant structural damage, Pike was adamant that the Enterprise would hold. And yet, even though he knows he will somehow survive, I love the exchange he has with Spock, realizing that they've lost several crew members. Spock says, "You made the logical choice." And Pike says, "Why doesn't it feel that way?" And Spock says, "For the same reason you made it, because you value life." And I think that really humanizes Pike.
And that was our friend Josh at Josh Alder on Twitter. I like to look up little science facts when we're doing podcasts about Trek, and I was going to be like, oh, here's how much pressure was on the hull of the Enterprise in that brown dwarf. Holy crap. Nope, did not get that science. Didn't even come close to getting that science. So I'm just going to say 10,000 PSI. There. We'll call it that and enrage some astronomers.
I also really, really love that interchange between Pike and Spock. That was an amazing moment. Really, really good.
There has been some, let's call it mild speculation online about the nature of the relationship between Transporter Chief Kyle and that friend that he saves momentarily and then does not save.
And then doesn't struggle very much at all when he gets shoved through the door. Come on, Kyle.
Look,
you could have resisted if you wanted.
Let's talk about Kyle for just a second. He's getting a lot of hate online for not being able to, do a great job as a transporter chief. And it's like, come on, be fair. He's a young crew member. He's learning his job. But the dude can't even transport his friend 30 feet down the hallway without him dying. So, I mean, it's like, come on, Kyle. You got to pick it up here, buddy. Josh, what did you think about Anson Mount bringing the heat with his performance, reacting to all the shit that goes down in this episode?
Oh, he's great. I mean, Anson Mount is who he is. He commands presence. He's got the je ne sais quoi, the it factor. The hair alone is, as a balding man, I love and hate his hair at the same time. So that's the kind of hair that you follow into hell.
So to your point, who is Anson Mount? Because I didn't know him before season 2 of Discovery, where I was like, oh, this guy's charming. And now I'm just like, there is a 10-second scene in this episode where it's just a shot on his face and so many emotions cross that face in those 10 seconds. And he sells each and every one of them. He is amazing. I've never heard of him. I think he was in like one of those motorbike shows. Where did he come from?
It's a railroad show. I dug back a little bit. Probably the first time you ever saw him, Cam, was in season 2 of Lost. He is Jack's wife's fiance when she gets in the accident, who's like, oh, I might not be able to have sex with her again. I'm out. And just like, he's super greasy in the scene. It's like, that's probably working. Okay. But yeah, one episode, you're not going to remember, but go back and watch it because it's like, yep, that's Anson Mount. Yep, there's a little bit of Pike in there. It's kind of fun to watch.
Cameron, is this how I find out you've never seen the American classic film Crossroads starring Britney Spears, Anson Mount, and Zoe Saldana?
I now have 2 more reasons to watch it than I did before. So, Jesse, I will go watch Crossroads if I can imagine that is Captain Pike's life after he goes back to the Telosians and enters a world of his mind.
You could have chosen any life, and this is what you chose. That's why Q comes to like judge humanity. Is like, look at these people.
I loved his how skeptical he is of the survivorship at first, and he gives him like a hang on. Like, there's just so much going on in the subtext of what he's saying there in that scene. It's so good.
I have a little nitpick with some of the dialogue, and this may have happened earlier, but there's a point where he asks if there's casualties, and it seems like he's asking if anyone died, because obviously their casualties can mean people that are hurt. And it's obvious, quite obvious, that nobody was unscathed. So he's like, were there any casualties? Like, words mean things, writers of Star Trek.
See, actually, the bridge crew just know that Pike cannot get that right, so they know what he means. They just let him roll with it.
There's a Pike translation guide.
I hope that little practical effect puppet with the teeth from the trailer that we saw is a Gorn. Like, I hope that is a baby Gorn.
Baby Gorn. That's what everybody's terrified of.
That's what I hope people were getting fed to. Like,
no one, La never actually saw him. She just saw the shadows and heard the clicking, which, yes, scary, but then it turns around the corner. It's a Muppet.
If CBS has any hope of making tons of money, they will make baby Gorns like Grogu to just have them everywhere.
Yes. This is the way.
The meme potential, put Photoshop a cigarette in its mouth and have some snarky thing like I hate Monday.
YouTube videos of Gorn babies eating chicky nuggies.
Gorn Garfield, that's it. Just Garfield comics, but replace Garfield with a Gorn.
What did you guys think about Lon getting some full-on revenge?
You could kind of see the urge on her face to take over a planet, right? Like, she was like, I could take over a planet. No, I shouldn't. I shouldn't take over a planet. I'm in Starfleet. Starfleet is cool. I should be in Starfleet. Like,
yeah, because Starfleet never takes over planets.
Well, I mean, not Gorn planets.
They ask for it.
Right, yeah. Unless they're the Baku or that one episode with Wesley that Cameron hasn't gotten to yet.
I really enjoyed, again, like Marcy's point, like, hey, nice. It's nice to see that officers on the ship are being listened to by the captain, even when it seems like they might be a little up in emotions. I very much enjoyed how quickly they brought weight of what's about to happen in this episode. But like, okay, here's a character. Now they're dead, and several of our characters have just been blown up a little bit. So
that was one of the turning points of me going from being very lukewarm to enjoying. Because a lot of the newer Trek episodes, there's a lot of like static between like they're like, oh, we should raise the shield. Well, why should we raise the shield? What do like? Somebody says, "Oh, raise the shields, Captain," and he's just like, "Raise the shields." I get it.
They can't. And,
right.
And Pike gives that total dad face where he almost says "what" out loud. He goes, and then stops and goes, "Right," because of the order I gave earlier to evacuate this is totally a trap. We're screwed. Whoops. Like, you can see those realizations happening in near real time on his face. And it's, yeah, I really, really loved those moments.
Usually I don't enjoy like these types of flashbacks, like, okay, we're going to enter the traumatized characters kind of memories, and we all know what's going to happen. But I thought it was really done well here. I thought the direction was done well. I thought like going from like young Lon to old Lon was done well. Yeah, I liked what they did with their character in this. I don't entirely know what they did when they killed the other Gorn ship. That felt all a little hand-wavy to me. Like, all of a sudden, they flew right up to him where they should have been able to detect him, hacked into the Gorn ship, and sent their own coded message from the Gorn ship?
No, I think she was just using their phasers close enough to the Gorn ship to make the light signal. That's how I interpret it. Because at first I was like, oh hey, you're right. So she was just like making it look like the Gorn were saying, hey.
So the Gorn couldn't tell that the light signal was coming from a small shuttle next to them.
Right.
Okay. Well, I had a problem with that too. Like, the suicide mission of sending the shuttle was not established well enough for me. It was like, oh, we could send a shuttle. Well, why? Like, that didn't really help them get out. It wound up helping us see La'an's backstory. I mean, it was there for a story reason. It wasn't really there for a plot reason.
The thing I kept expecting with her flashback of her brother, like with that weird smile on his face, I was like, all right, they're gonna pull back and you're gonna see like he's like half a body and like the gore like eating on it. And I was like, come on. And then he's just like smiles like, get out of here, kid. I'll let the Gorn eat me.
What movie is that?
And we didn't even get like, you know, she's looking at the paper and he just screams and blood splatters on the paper, you know, pulls her out of the memory, like something. Come on, give us a little.
Well, and I have to ask Cameron, like, did it feel hand wavy more than the literal hand wave onto the face and then the mind meld? Because I love a good old fashioned mind meld, but it's basically magic, right? Like,
yeah. Well, yeah, I am suddenly going to like remember this piece of paper my brother handed to me in this traumatic moment.
Well, see, I took that as her going, I could never remember that. But Spock going, well, if I had access to it, I could remember the hell out of it.
And Vulcan mind meld, I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
that's hand wavy.
But not the remodulated phasers.
I was just like, I did not They would have noticed the little shuttle creeping up on him. I feel like, come on.
It reminds me of
there
was a line at the beginning that I just shook my head at when the mom was like, "There are no such thing as monsters." I was like, in Star Trek. Yeah, there are monsters like everywhere. Like that's not something you tell your kids in Star Trek. You say, "Dude, there are monsters all over the place."
We call them aliens, honey, but yes, they're scary as shit and will eat you.
There are clouds that will kill you. There are monsters that will suck the salt out of you.
Don't tell your kids in real life that there aren't monsters. Like, just teach your kids about context. Like,
yeah.
So. Speaking of lines that were kind of like, there was a very, I think I'm going to call him Lieutenant Helpful on the bridge this week.
Zuniga.
Crewman Zuniga. I think I'm just going to call him Lieutenant Helpful because they said, hey, look, there's a black hole. And he said, brace for heavy gravity.
He's Lieutenant Obvious.
But he does an amazing dance at the end. So I'm down with his like little thumb up, like, yeah.
It's like it needs to be freeze framed. Yeah. And he learned to point from politicians.
Oh, yeah. It was definitely a Clinton point. Absolutely.
What was with the redshift? Did that come into play with their plan at all? Or was he just showing off that he knew what redshifting was?
I'm so happy that you said that, Cameron. Okay, so when the explosion happens at the end, when I think it's called the AP350 device explodes.
Sure.
And you see that beautiful explosion animation just stop and smear across the entire accretion disk, right? Mm-hmm. That's the redshift. So the fact that explosion appears to just start extending from one point outward and then crashing into itself again on the other side, right? That's what he means. Like, so it'll appear that explosion.
How does that help them escape the Gorn? I thought we were going to see the Enterprise itself get stuck, and the Gorn would see that explode. But really, the Enterprise was flying away
because they're seeing an explosion, so they go, "Oh, the Enterprise exploded." Like,
but the redshift, they didn't need the redshift for that. They would have seen the explosion anyway.
Oh, they didn't need it, I don't think. No. I don't think they needed the redshift specifically for that, but it did look very cool.
Oh, yeah. I was saying, so they were just setting up, explaining why it would look cool later.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think my whole thing that I was like, oh, really? We're going to have an issue with this is like, oh, we're out of plasma. Like, blood donation has been around for a long time, guys.
That is archaeological medicine, John, okay? And only Nurse Chapel is interested in that.
Right, they forgot how to sew people up. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. What do we do? Well, I got the string and a needle. Maybe we can...
Yeah. And it's not just this series. Star Trek doctors just love forgetting about old medical practices that have been founded in hundreds of years of like, yeah, you know what? The human body, for as much as some people want to say it's a sacred thing, you can just put all kinds of different parts into and onto it, or just cut off parts. And if you sew it up and keep it infection free, it'll be fine. I mean, the brain will just learn different ways to work if it's damaged bad enough. It's like the human body is extremely adaptable. They should remember how to sew it up.
Open Pike editor's note: do not sew things into your body at the behest of any podcast host that you have ever heard anywhere, please, and do not add us.
Small correction, Star Trek doctors love to remember those things.
That's true.
They love to say, remember this old thing that I happen to be studying.
Well, let's hear from our next guest on stage.
Hey, Open Pike, it's Abby Summer from the First Flight podcast. I am adoring this show. It just gets better and better and better every week. And what really struck me this week was that this entire episode was just a mood. Every second of it kept that tension high and the feelings were anxious, and it was just one of those great moody, creepy episodes of Star Trek. You know, thinking back to like Vox Sola and Enterprise, and The Haunting of Deck 12 from Voyager, and even Genesis from TNG, that same kind of creepy, almost horror-esque feeling, and I loved it. And I also really loved how the Enterprise herself, our beloved ship, felt truly like a character that was there and present more than ever in this episode. And I love that we are getting to see places on this ship that we haven't seen before. And that VR wall is blowing my mind. So I hope that you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. And I cannot wait to see what comes next.
That was Abby Summer of the First Flight podcast at First Flight Pod on Twitter.
I really felt like everyone was firing on all cylinders, like the entire cast, Anson Mount especially, but like the writing, besides the few small plot black holes I just mentioned, really strong. The directing was amazing. Like,
oh yeah,
I mean, we all knew Himmer and Uhura were alive at the end, like, but that whole scene was just so good. And then Anson Mount's performance, and then both me and Pike had the same problem at the end. We needed a new pair of pants.
Well, we knew that Uhura was alive. Himmer, he could still get splattered at any point. Because I mean,
I've seen the trailers. We get to see him say the magic of science at some point.
That makeup's expensive, so I mean, sorry, dude.
That's what breaks the Strange New World's budget.
I wonder, do you think there is something that is broken and thus would be Hemmer's purpose to fix? Is it a crew member? Is it the captain? Is there something in particular that refers to? Is that a line setting us up for something? Is this Chekhov's engineer? Is this...
I've been thinking about that a little bit. I've been thinking, someone asked us who we thought, if not everyone was going to make it to the end of season 1 or to the beginning of season 2 at any rate. Jesse, you asked that. And I'm starting to think that might be La'an. Like, I'm starting to see like her commitment to Starfleet is starting to waver here. They held on her watching that Gorn ship get destroyed for a good solid beat. Yeah. And we know something inside of her is broken. I think, doesn't she say as much in this episode? Did someone say something about her being broken? I'm not broken.
Yeah, she tells.
Yeah.
And then Himmer says he's there to fix what is broken. Oh, shit. He's going to sacrifice himself to save her, but then she's going to sacrifice her. One of them are not making out of the season alive.
To Abby's point, though, the tension in this episode, I think what really set the mood and vibe for me is this what are they called? They're like a planning session, right? Like the meeting scene in the conference room. The table has a light set into it, and all of the lights on the walls and the ceiling of this room are flickering because of the power drain, but the light in the table is staying on, and that keeps the light on all the actors' face constant. So no matter what's going on in the environment behind them, all this turbulence and crazy happenings, you are focused on their faces only. And I think was that Josh's point, caller Josh's point, that might be what made it feel like a bottle episode, where the true vibes of being stuck in a dangerous place.
Yeah. And
yeah, that's a good point.
So we got almost the most Ortegas we've ever gotten in this episode so far. And I was a little surprised, like, oh, she is a hotshot like pilot. She is kind of being like, what? Why are we not full on insubordinate, but definitely not like, oh yeah, that's a great idea at every suggestion. So
I like that we got to see that she can have misplaced confidence without being like a bad person, and she's just like, she has doubt in the situation because of fear, not because she doesn't trust the captain, right? Like she's trusted the captain to do things before, and then he goes, oh right, the right avenue for this is to go, hey, Erica, can you handle this really cool flying thing? And she's like, oh, I feel better now. And he's like, yeah.
And her right. Shift in that scene, like another fantastic performance of like, oh, I'm not sure to like, yeah, you're goddamn right, I can. Let's do this.
I've been struggling over who my favorite character is. I think this episode tipped it over into Ortega's. I mean, it's just the character I want to see on screen. I just love everything she does.
Ooh,
Didn't your science officer just tell you that's a bad idea?
She's probably one of my least favorite characters. It's the casualness and insubordinate nature that because in TNG and TOS there's just more of it's a work environment versus Pike obviously is cultivating a more. This is a family because the scenes prior where they're all around. They talk about Firefly inspired when they're like cooking in the captain's quarters and sitting around the table. That could have been pulled right out of Firefly. And the freaking stove drives me nuts. The fireplace. Like Space OSHA has got to have a rule against having open flame in a starship. You got
I was wondering because we see a lot of shelves with knickknacks on them, and this ship was shaking a lot. Are those holographic?
Everything's holographic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why would you? Okay, he has a frigging AR wall with a forest in it in his room. Why would all of his decor not be AR or holographic? Literally, think about
old school.
I mean,
he's extremely old school.
But okay, then there are very small force fields in place that act as display cases because otherwise, you're right. People are going to be dead in their quarters.
Inertial dampener.
Well, we should probably just skip by the point where the larger mass of the smaller ship is going to pull the torpedo down towards it.
Oh, no. In case you were wondering on that, Cameron. So the larger mass of the Gorn ship compared with the gas surrounding it. Is what they were saying.
Okay.
Because the problem was if you had
But since there is no down, wouldn't it just get sucked back to the larger mass of the Enterprise?
No, because they're venting the cargo bay. So they're giving it the inertial push. Yeah. And then
more points, Grant. I'm going to give you high marks on this.
Okay.
Speaking of which, I would be terrified if my navigator said, "Why is that one blip bigger than the other blip?" That's day one stuff, people.
That's the person you're going to trust with surfing a black hole.
Right.
So it's Remembrance Day, and I was kind of surprised to see Uhura wearing a pin because she's a cadet.
Was it her parents' shuttle?
Oh, God.
Do they have pins for shuttles?
I don't actually remember what the pin was, but at Gach Yogi on Twitter, of course, Jorg Hillebrand has the incomparable Jorg Hillebrand. Let's just say that. He's not associated with the show, but Trekkies everywhere owe him a debt of gratitude, so let's just say that. He has broken down and identified each pin on each crew member that is visible basically anywhere in this episode.
I was kind of hoping to see a shot of at least one crew member with like 8 or 9 pins. Like, do we want this person on our ship? Damn.
I think the pins are people that you knew. It didn't have to be one that you had served on.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I think that it's kind of like it's like the poppy pins that they do in England for their Memorial Day for Remembrance Day.
Yep.
And again, like this was something that I was like, man, this is additive to Trek lore. This is fantastic stuff.
Yes.
I mean, it was handled so well. And when I was watching it, it didn't even dawn on me that it was Memorial Day weekend. And I was like, man, good on you.
And then poor La'an gets stressed down for not wearing enough flair at work.
I'm just saying.
Which also, like, kind of a douchey move. Like, let people grieve how they want to grieve.
Okay, here are all the memorial pins, courtesy of Gach Yogi at Gach Yogi 49 on Twitter. As I mentioned, Jorg Hillebrand. La'an wears a SS Puget Sound pin, of course. Uhura wears a USS Gallant pin. So that sounds like a ship, not a shuttle. Pike, of course, wears Discovery. Spock wears a USS Congo. Hemmer wears a USS Angelou. Kyle's friend wears a USS Yangtze pin. Kyle wears a USS Shenzhou pin, which I thought was really cool. I went, oh my gosh, he was on the Shenzhou. And then it was pointed out, like, no, he maybe just knew somebody there. And I went, oh, yeah, okay. Parker, which is the female medical crew member, wears a USS Excalibur pin, and Mbenga wears a USS Cayuga pin. Chapel wears USS Farragut pin. Legacy moment there. Una wears USS Antares. Ortegas wears USS Palenque.
Was the USS Congo invaded by those big white monkey aliens, the Mugatu, wielding stone paddles? Is that what
happened? You don't want to bring that up with me.
I will say, Josh, your hate box about how Congo is a terrible movie is when I was like, oh, this podcast is fucking awesome. Okay, I'm listening to the Brick Pit from now on.
Well, I appreciate that. The hate box is literally, Jason was like, we need to have something every week. You just rant. And I wait till Wednesday and like, what am I mad about? I turn on the recording and rant.
Well, but okay, you say rant, but I want any listener who's never heard one of these to understand there's like the kindest, gentlest music in the background underneath it. And I can just picture you kicked back, like at work, talking into your phone, the most chill
a brandy
ever.
in one hand.
Yeah, like so. Rant is in content.
It's very Jack Handy.
Absolutely, and it's fantastic.
It's old man yells at the cloud.
There you go. All right, Cam, would you like to take a guess at what our next caller references?
I don't know, but I bet it's my favorite segment of the week, the Crusher Connection. What do we got, Michelle?
Let's find out.
Hey, Open Pike Night. So episode 4 was epic. This felt like watching a movie. Now, every episode so far has been pretty cinematic, but can we talk about the score for a second? And it was just so reminiscent of TOS. I love the use of the horns and the themes they were bringing in, and also Invoke the Wrath of Khan. So much there. And there's also that thread of Starfleet Remembrance Day and how that was a theme throughout, like, you know, with La'an's trauma and also just losing people on the Enterprise or potentially losing them during the story, and just seeing the toll that it takes on Captain Pike. And man, is Pike giving Picard a run for his money on inspirational speeches. I am loving Captain Pike here and his leadership. And they had a conference room scene in the middle of this thing. It was fantastic. I loved all that. And how all the characters kind of shined and the acting was amazing. Just another great episode. I would say with the Beverly Crusher of it all, it really reminded me of the episode Disaster, when her and Geordi were stuck in the cargo bay and they had to open the door to space to vent out the plasma that was on fire. Kind of like what Uhura and Hemmer had to do. They had to let that part of the ship go so they could explode it. I don't know. The science of it all gets a little lost on me, but the Ready Room had a great synopsis of some of the stuff that the science was grounded in this episode. So that was very helpful. Anyway, love the episode and look forward to hearing your podcast. Live long and prosper.
All right. Thank you, Michelle. At On The Rock 81 on Twitter. Cam, how did you not come up with Disaster?
I did. I was in the back of my head. Yes, of course, because I was thinking that like Crusher and Geordi had a much easier time holding on than Uhura and Himmer did. Like apparently 80 years in the future, they found a way to make air get sucked out of
without suits.
Cargo bay
also, it's like, come on,
Uhura
and Himmer. Like, come on.
Crusher will show you how to badass your way through this.
I kept thinking, like, if the force was enough to pull those bolts off the floor, there's no way you're grabbing that person. Like your arm's coming with it. Like that's, and one other nitpick with I loved everything about the Himmer and Uhura story. I really did. It was really, really good character building. They had great chemistry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But did it like an icy machine fall on Himmer? What was up with that big snowflake? I was like, what?
This is your TOS callback.
It's like, this is the cold thing.
Also, especially when what they're trying to fix is something that needs coolant. I'm like, there's a cold thing.
This is right on my arm. It's a refrigerator. Let's open this up.
That's a storage container for coolant, John. You of all people should be able to recognize pictograms, I would think, right? You're a frigging barrel chemical guy.
Yep.
Did they have an ancient Egyptian on board? I always speak hieroglyphic.
Like you heard how the best pilot of Starfleet wondered what the big dot meant. So it makes sense. I was really hoping when they pulled it off that Himmer would just pull out like a Roger Rabbit like pancake hand from underneath,
Yes.
and it kind of looked like
a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, the heat. Speaking of which, Himmer should have been like sweating like crazy because he's from an ice planet. Yep. Why was Spock so sweaty? Vulcan is like a volcanic planet. He was sweating more than anybody else. It's like it should have been like, oh, this is like early spring in Vulcan.
Because when he and La'an left, Pike was like, dude, if she goes crazy, you know what to do, right? So he was just waiting for that the whole time, and that's actually why he suggested the mind meld. He was like, maybe I don't have to kill her. Maybe I could just mind meld with her. To hear the smiles on the faces of our callers when they're leaving their notes has been hugely therapeutic for me this morning, and I can't thank you all enough for submitting what you have, so thank you, and please, every week, continue to do so.
Absolutely. I do kind of want to say, I was going to save it for the end, but this kind of leads into it, that thank you guys for doing this podcast with me, because, I mean, not only do I enjoy the podcast itself, but I think the way I'm watching Strange New Worlds, I would have enjoyed it anyway, but I'm getting so much more out of this show and just loving it because of the deep dives we're taking into it. So it's been a lot of fun.
There's a lot of online interaction with the Open Pike account. And again, with the just pure swath of callers we have, let alone people who interact with us online, it is really heartening to see, like, not all of them agree with each other. In fact, it's gotten pretty contentious from time to time. But it's really nice to see that, like, okay, Trek is Trek, and it is something that you either do not give a crap about or you are passionate about.
You got opinions.
Yeah, like, there are very few, if any, just fully casual Trek viewers once they're on their second or third series. Like, yeah, you might have seen little things here and there, but you're not a Trekkie. It's just really nice to know that something so new with Strange New Worlds and with Open Pike Night has already started generating so much participation, and I appreciate every caller we have ever had. This is the first episode where I've actually had to choose who makes it onto the Open Pike Night stage. And part of that choice was partly easy because one of our callers said, hey, I've been on the stage a lot, so if you need to bump me to make room for somebody else, I'm like, that is very noble Starfleet type.
Yeah.
Yes, that is very Trek.
Yeah, so
emblematic of the kind of people that are connecting with us. Yeah, this has been mind blowing.
And going back to the Hammer and Uhura thing, I was really pleasantly surprised because as soon as I saw that they were going to be dealing with a malfunctioning piece of atomic equipment, I'm like, oh, there's their other missile. That's how they're going to blow up the big Gorn ship. I was really happy that they're like, make it look like we blew up so they fly away. Like, it wasn't a we have to kill them. It's like,
play possum.
We have to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I just was really surprised and pleased to see it that way.
Well, it leaves the Gorn as a threat. It doesn't neuter them, because if they had destroyed the Gorn, then like, oh, well, we can outsmart them, because they lost.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The Enterprise lost across the board, which is very Trek. You know, sometimes you can do everything right and still lose. Nice. Like that's what this episode was, and it was really impactful. I loved when Pike went to the caskets, because that gave ultimate weight to, and especially it being like a Memorial Day kind of episode, that, like, you know, these people died. We did not come out of this unscathed. You know, and that's the price we pay for what we do.
I also really love that we got to see those caskets alongside a physical photon torpedo, right? Like, going back to the Wrath of Khan, you know, and getting rid of, you know, Spock once he was gone and things like that. It was just like, I loved the very Tronified, like, black and blue neon of the photon torpedo that they dropped, and then the very clearly just a cargo attachment from the top of a Toyota 4Runner that they used as the coffins with a UFP flag draped over them at the end.
If it worked for TNG and Enterprise and Voyager and DS9.
I know why they're doing it, and it made me so happy to see. I was like,
absolutely.
That's where I want to see the budget. Yeah. I want to see the budget in those moments. That is beautifully executed. I really, really liked that.
Jesse, Cam, how long did you think it would take us to get a call in from a cast member?
I'm sorry?
4 episodes.
Yeah.
No, were they right?
Here we are from what I think who is quickly becoming one of the favorite characters on Strange New Worlds.
What? Mr. Kyle?
That was Captain Pike's Hair at Captain Pike's Hair on Twitter, giving us a call in. I'm guessing between shooting scenes and just getting prepared. So,
Jessie is having a moment, guys.
Sorry, guys. I thought I was emotional already, and now I'm like, I'm going to break down a little bit. Whoa.
The follicle feels.
Wow. That is deeply touching. Please. Wow. I can't even. Celebrity moment, you guys.
I don't know. It sounded like a lot of hot air to me.
No.
How dare you?
and
It was spelled HAWT.
And I do want to say that was sent in. I didn't just go grab that clip. That was actually from the at Captain Pike's Hair Twitter
awesome.
on account on Twitter. So thank you very much for calling in to Open Pike Night.
You know, I think he made some really strong points too. Going back to, actually, no, I do have one more point I want to make. I just realized, talking about the Himmer scene, is I did notice how they had, we had La'an's big moment of wrath, the wrath of La'an. What scene directly followed that? Do you guys remember? Himmer talking about pacifism. Oh. And I think there's something there. I think that's leaning back more into that Himmer and La'an are going to have a moment.
That's a very good point.
And I think they're coming to heads at some point.
I really like that the kind of active pacifism that he discussed, because it's like typically that's something you get into when you talk about Star Wars, like Jedi are pacifists, but then, like they're lopping people's arms off. It's like, I mean, it's pacifist is not inactive and peaceful all the time. So I mean, there is sometimes actions taken.
Well, and it's in direct contrast to La'an's philosophy of there are some things that are just evil. You can't reason with everybody. Not everybody is going to be able to find common ground with you, okay? Some things are just evil. There are monsters in the universe. And Hemmer is going, there are multiple ways to see all the difficult parts of this, but the way that you react to them hugely matters. Now, I loved everything about the interaction between Hemmer and Uhura, and in particular that they're like sort of misanthropic personalities, or rather the misanthropic parts of both of their personalities fit really well together. He's like, I didn't say touch it. Why did you burn yourself? And she's like, okay, well, it's normally you wouldn't say to somebody, you've been inspirational to me today. Like, that's kind of a weird thing to just bring up and directly say, right? But she does it because she knows that he appreciates efficiency and getting things done. Yeah. And it's like, those personalities just mesh so well. That whole thing felt so natural to me. I really loved that entire exchange.
There needs to be an episode where, like, they go to Riser or something together. That would be fantastic.
Just get drunk.
Just get blind, stinking. Oh, damn it.
Yeah.
No. I did like, I don't know if this was intentional at all, that the communication station on the bridge was not manned. Like someone else, I think La'an, had to go over there to turn on the video feed to the cargo bay to see if Uhura was still alive. And Himmer, of course, but the communication station is her connection. Like when, we don't know if she's still around, and her future station is empty right now.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Additional layer of visual metaphor I hadn't even picked up on.
Mm-hmm.
It was nice to see Spock looking down into his little viewer. His science is like, there it is.
Oh,
like,
John, I made that exact same note. And the other note that I made specifically regarding Spock was, I love that we got a moment for Michael Burnham. And I do not care if you're a New Trek hater of any kind or anything like that. I like this moment because it humanizes Spock. It gives him something that is understandable, and it's close enough in motivation to what La'an is experiencing to make the rest of their moments together believable. And I feel like it is another instance of this show going, yes, this is different than Discovery, but it would not exist without Discovery.
And it's Remembrance Day, so she's been on his mind all day. So it's like, why would she all of a sudden hear that? Like, because they've established that this is the day everybody is thinking about their lost loved ones. So
the only thing that bothers me about the Burnham connection, and it happened in an earlier episode, is that he keeps referring to her as my sister. It's like, dude, what about Cybok? You never you called him your brother once, and that was before when Kirk was like saying, "Hey, murder this dude." He's like, "Well, he's my brother." You called him, even after that, he called him Cybok.
Spock is canonically a liar. Like
he just does not, and I don't, his secret relatives is fine because it's like when you meet Spock's parents, it's like, he's like, Spock, you want to go meet your parents? They're right here. That's, they're the ambassadors, Kirk. It's like, oh, well, that would have been nice for you to volunteer.
And, this is I'm not one to really harp on canon, but that whole Space Seed connection, everybody's like, well, Spock doesn't know about Khan, but all of a sudden he's serving with one of his descendants. But also, Spock is super emotional in that scene when he's like, I don't get what you guys are talking about. You're all crazy. Like, okay, well, yeah, whatever. It's 60 years apart. Times change.
Actually, to that point, John, our friend on Twitter at GShadow1 Horse Girl Pike fan says long-running franchises shouldn't be tied to decisions made decades ago if it gets in the way of a good story now. TLDRF canon.
So are you saying that it would be impossible to tell a good story without having La'an be related to Khan? That was the problem.
Wait, what? I don't think that's impossible, no.
I could agree with that sentiment, but I'm stuck in my ways. I'm an old man. I don't think that I think this is a reboot. I feel like it's a reboot. That's how I view it. I just want them to admit it. I just want them to, because that's all they have to do is say, hey, it's a reboot. Then I don't care what you do with canon because it's a reboot. So if you have somebody related to Khan and fine, but just say it. Don't lie to me. Because
well, it's not a reboot. That's why they're not saying that.
But it is.
If it feels that way, that's fine. But it's not.
Deep down in your heart.
Hey, reality is subjective, man. Whatever feels right is right.
That's the Piper thing, man.
That's all there is. Maybe we could find some common ground here. Let's all chill out.
Aren't we all just our own canon?
Isn't Star Trek just like whatever it means to you?
Like the episode with the space hippies of like taking over. We need those guys to come back in Strange New Worlds. That would be awesome to see Pike with the space hippie. He'd be like, yeah, these guys are cool.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. I'd like to see almost every one-off species from the Next Generation at some point in this series, just with the upped budget and everything. Like, I want to see the crazy planet where they're all half naked, but you can't step on the plants. I want to see like the people that Ardra was messing with. I want to see what happened to the Masterpiece Society. Like, I'm fine with all that. I mean, we don't need to, right? Because we don't need new connections,
because we can come up with our own interesting alien societies,
and that's what I think they're going to probably do. But I don't know.
These are strange and new worlds we're looking at, guys.
And as I said on Twitter this weekend, if we don't expect Trek to at all lean on what it knows works, then we're going to be disappointed, right? Like, because they're going to do that in certain instances, and I think part of the answer to that is that's why there are so many legacy characters.
All right. Final thoughts. Anybody got some notes they wanted to get out there before we wrap this up?
There was a really cool pullback on Pike near the end. Some awesome cameras sweeping around the bridge. Just love how they're using the camera work and the space. Good stuff.
The sensors don't seem to work the same episode to episode. Like they scanned the ship in the episode where the planet of the Space Karens, and they're like, there's no bodies on this ship. And then this one, they're like, they couldn't tell if they were bodies or not on the rescue ship. And I was like, huh. They specifically mentioned that they could scan dead bodies just 2 episodes ago, and now they can't.
Well, that was a cargo ship with radioactive lining or something, apparently. So
it was the cancer
gave a little
ship.
bit of an explanation for it. It's the cancer ship.
And these sensors are designed by the ancestors of Deanna Troi, so sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. It all depends.
Totally depends on who wrote the episode. Yep. I would just say, I don't think we could get through this whole thing without saying, I love when a maneuver includes a slingshot. And this is just like the essence of Strange New Worlds so far, right? It has just been all the best parts of Star Trek turned up to 11. So what do people love about Star Trek? They love Wrath of Khan. All right, let's do a Wrath of Khan episode. They love the Borg. Cool, let's do a Borg episode. They really love maneuvers. Cool, let's put a maneuver in it and name it. They love slingshots. We had them slingshot around the sun. What's bigger than that? Black hole. Just crank those dials every friggin' week. I am so jacked for Spock Amok, you guys.
Yes. Yes. And speaking of all the different types of Trekkies, I believe our guest next week is one whose most experience with Star Trek is playing the pinball game of the Kelvin Timeline movie.
This is going to be interesting.
It's going to be great to get his take on Strange New Worlds.
Personally, my one note I've made every episode so far and haven't voiced it, but I will now. They do not want to shoot a still shot of people coming or going from the transporter pad. Every time there's a transport scene and they're focusing on it, that camera is just swinging around the transporter pad like crazy. I think somebody really must have hated those TNG shots or the TOS shot. Just people stand still, let the glitter effect happen. Okay, now walk off and we'll get a shot of you being gone. So it's interesting to see what they don't do in Strange New World.
It's pretty kinetic. I would say the camera movement is pretty kinetic in this series as a whole. But for example, the scene that I mentioned earlier where they're in the conference room, it really, that one non-failing light in the table really seems to center Pike as the rock that he is for the crew. And I bet if you were to go through this episode just kind of scrubbing through fast forward, I bet you the frames with the least motion in them are the frames that Pike is in control of.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Well, they had that great shot of her hesitating to walk into the transporting room before, and that was like a good long still shot. Yeah, I mean, one of my problems with the Discovery was that the camera just never stopped moving, even for scenes when it should stop moving. And I haven't bumped on it yet with this series.
That's just a modern problem. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Yeah. But we got steady cams now that are going to use a run around.
Now I gotta say, the camera motions in the 3D space environments in this episode, just wow. Watching the Enterprise pivot on multiple axes and then come back around from looking like a duck to looking like a sparrowhawk. That was so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you to all of our guests on the Open Pike Night Stage. Like I said, this is the first week I've had to decide who gets on stage or not, and I'll tell you what, I love deciding who talks and who doesn't. I don't know what Pike is talking about. Have no fear, though. Every voice that contributes will be heard on the Open Pike Night podcast in some form or other. We do have one last clip from a new, very, very last-minute contributor, so when we put those deadlines out there, please be sure to stick to them.
And I'll be a little clearer with those on Twitter at Openpike.
Greetings, friends, from the Selden Crisis podcast. I lived on old Trek in my youth and have just started discovering the new stuff. Strange New World seems to beautifully capture the Roddenberry spirit he gave birth to over half a century ago. In my opinion, the essence of a great show is to fill the essential roles with great performers and add just enough to the mix to make it fresh and exciting. You need a great captain and bridge crew, a unique doctor and engineer who bring something special, and most of all, a beautiful ship and a creative team of story writers. This show has it all and then some. The ship is simply gorgeous, the visuals are mind-blowing, and the crew is first-rate. They've written 4 excellent stories so far that build the character of the main crew members and make them feel like family. I love them all and look forward to the continuing development of this rich and talented cast. I love the fact that this show slots in chronologically a century or so after Enterprise, because it has the chance to build on the characters and events of that show, which I feel was disastrously terminated in its prime. Besides having an Aniar crew member in Hemmer, Uhura feels like an echo of Hoshi Sato in many ways, one of my favorite characters from that show. I will be looking forward to every Thursday for the next several weeks and thrilled to get on board with wherever they take this splendid creation.
All right, Joel, thanks for joining us on stage at Open Pike, especially with some very correct opinions about Enterprise and the characters on Enterprise. Jesse?
Indeed.
You can find Joel on Twitter at Joel G. McKinnon. So, Josh, the way we've been rating these episodes is ranking them in order as they come out. So, this isn't a 1 through 10. This is a best through worst of the season of Strange New Worlds so far. I'll go ahead and start this time. This definitely jumped to the top of the list for me. After what I thought was a pretty weak episode last time, I'm going to go with episode 4, then 2, then 1, then 3.
This was my favorite so far.
I'm gonna agree with Cameron. I had initially said I think as every episode comes out, it will be my favorite. Last week I ran into I think I liked episode 2 more than episode 3, but we're back on board. Episode 4 is just how could this not? I mean, I don't mean to imply that any opinion on a thing could be incorrect, but for me, there's no way that this couldn't be the best episode yet.
And Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, I rank them in reverse air order, 4, 3, 2, 1. Like it's gotten better every week, and I think that is the only thing you can really ask of a first season is for it to get better. I feel like I'm hoping that it's found its legs. If so, it'll be pretty much one of the only Trek shows to find its footing so quickly. Because, I mean, we all know season 1 usually isn't the best. Other than Enterprise and Deep Space Nine,
and Lower Decks.
But 2 got better. 2 was better than 1.
Thank you for joining us for another Open Pike Night. Jesse, now that we're 40% of the way through season 1 of Strange New Worlds and Open Pike Night, how can our listeners get on stage and share their thoughts, feelings, or jokes about Strange New Worlds?
I don't know why you have to keep saying it like that, John. It feels like a personal attack when you tell me what percentage of the season is left. But if the good folks out there would like to get on stage, the easiest way, of course, to do that is to record 90 seconds of audio or, slightly less than that, and send that in to openpike@gmail.com. Now, I know that you have a million things to do, like you're the Captain Pike of your own life, so there is subordinates to pay attention to and black holes going on and all this pressure buckling your ship every week. So to help alleviate the pressure of remembering to record your voice and send it to us to be featured on the stage, go to @Openpike on Twitter and click on Start Reading to get subscribed to our free weekly reminder newsletter. It will go straight to your email and it will say, hey, remember all that cool stuff that just happened on Strange New Worlds? Talk about it real quick and send it to the guys so they can put it up. That's all it's going to do. And as John mentioned earlier, be sure to check your junk or spam folders because I assure you our newsletter is neither. Now, if for whatever reason you need more of me individually on Twitter, you can follow me @SuddenBut. That is also the Twitter account for my other podcast, Sudden But Inevitable, where I force 2 of my friends to watch single-season television shows that they have never seen before. Currently, we are making our way through the anime Death Note, which is about a high school student who has the power to kill people by writing their names in a book. If you've never seen it before, this is a great way to experience it the first time. Watch along. It's a weekly podcast. Other than that, the best way to get a hold of me is just to go to Twitter and follow @Openpike. I'll be slinging memes and probably hating on trolls.
And Josh, where can people find you?
Usually behind the 7-Eleven, but if you want to find my online presence, we're at Brick Pit at Twitter, Brick Pit at Gmail. The podcast is wherever podcasts are sold, and you can find us at anchor.fm/Brick Pit if you want to leave us a voicemail. We also love to have our listeners call in, such as John. You're actually going to be a guest this week, so double dose of John if you want. Talking about haunted house and no talking about Beverly Crusher in ghost humping.
And if you want to triple trip into John this week, you can check us out at GreenShirt87 on Twitter. Greenshirt and Newbies Trek Through the Next Generation is the podcast where I'm watching The Next Generation for the first time and John produces. Check us out probably wherever you're listening to this.
You can find me on Twitter at John T. Bolds, and definitely tune in next week for episode 5, where at the end I make Jesse pick 1 star of Strange New Worlds he most wants to hear from on the Open Pike Night Stage. 1 and only 1, and it's going to be fun. It's time for us to make our way through the darkness outside and hope the pressure of everyday life doesn't become crushing. It's time to go. This is your final Gorning, people. You really need to get Gorn. Don't make me call our bouncer.
Jesus Christ, that's Jason Gorn.
You can Gorn anywhere you want, but you can't stay here.